Are you sure it's going to pass Supreme Court muster?
There are several key scholars who think that it may, and it's worth the effort.
In a bit of a surprise, the United States Supreme Court has halted the eviction moratorium. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. Well, it's about time, okay? I am so happy right now, okay? You won't believe how happy I am. The Supreme Court just made the decision to halt this illegal, unlawful eviction moratorium, put this whole thing to rest, okay? And it actually is a little bit surprising because I wasn't sure if they were going to be making a judgment anytime soon or if it was going to just have to wait until it actually expired on October 3rd, but it looks like they came through and, it's still August and they got rid of this thing. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below, and let me know if you're happy that the eviction moratorium is now over. So, this article is coming from NPR.org, and it says, the Supreme Court blocks the Biden administration's latest ban on evictions. Yeah. Okay, I'm glad they blocked it too, because the Biden administration went against what they said in the last time that the eviction moratorium was facing the Supreme Court. So these justices probably said, hey, we have to, send a message to this administration. They just can't do whatever they want to do. And that's exactly what they did. So let's get into the article and see what it says. The U.S. Supreme Court has blocked the Biden administration's order extending the federal eviction moratorium to a large swath of the country, in a decision expected by both legal scholars and the White House. The ban on evictions, a 2-month order, was issued by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. The pause covers parts of the United States that are experiencing what the CDC calls substantial and high spread of the coronavirus. The unsigned decision from the court was 6-3, with the court's 3 liberal justices dissenting. Wow, that's an even stronger judgment than the previous one, which it was barely defeated, thanks to Brett Kavanaugh by a 5-4 decision. But this one was, passed 6-3. So this is sending a strong message out there that the Supreme Court does not believe in this unlawful eviction moratorium, okay? And, just sitting here and knowing that the White House even expected this to happen, okay? Biden himself said that he believed that it wasn't lawful, yet he did it anyway. And so I'm glad that they acted swiftly, okay? They pushed this thing through the court system as fast as possible so that they could, knock it down, because throwing something unlawful out there like that, it was just wrong. The court's majority said the CDC exceeded its authority with the temporary ban. The majority opinion says that the CDC, for its order, relied on a decades-old statute that authorizes it to implement measures like fumigation and pest extermination. It strains credulity, I'm not good with that word, to believe that this statute grants the CDC the sweeping authority that it asserts, the majority writes, adding, if a federally imposed eviction moratorium is to continue, Congress must specifically authorize it. That's exactly what they had said last time with the old eviction moratorium, that Congress has to be the one to authorize this, okay? This has to pass through the Congress, okay? This isn't something that the president or the CDC or the FDA or the Board of Education can just pass. This isn't right. This isn't lawful. You have to pass a law. You have to make a change to the Constitution if you want to take someone's property without giving them just compensation. So that's something that is up to Congress, okay? And that's why it was so illegal. Thursday's decision was all but written in June when the Supreme Court, in a 5-4 decision, allowed an earlier moratorium issued by the CDC to stand. At that time, Justice Brett Kavanaugh sided with the majority, but wrote that he did that because the moratorium was set to expire in just a few weeks on July 31st. Back then, Kavanaugh, who cast the fifth and deciding vote, also wrote that he voted not to end the eviction program because those few weeks will allow for additional and more orderly distribution of the funds that Congress appropriated to provide rental assistance to those in need due to the pandemic. But Kavanaugh said that in his view, Congress would have to pass new and clearer legislation to extend the moratorium past July. And despite a last-minute effort in Congress to do that, lawmakers didn't have the votes. So yeah, if lawmakers want to blame anyone, they can blame themselves because they didn't pass any legislation. They didn't pass any laws that said that this eviction moratorium was legal. They didn't give the CDC the authority to do such a thing. And then they want to come out here and allow, just some random agency to pass property laws throughout the entire country. I mean, give me a break. It never was legal. It never should have been done. It's another further thing that leads me to believe that Biden is not the best president. And you see all this other stuff that's going on with Joe Biden right now, which I don't bring up because it doesn't have anything to do with real estate, but it really leads me to question, to believe that he is not the best leader for this country, okay? Congress has approved nearly $50 billion to help people pay back rent and avoid eviction. But while in some states and counties that's been working well, in many others, the help hasn't reached the vast majority of renters who need it. By one estimate, 15 states still haven't managed to get even 5% of those dollars out the door to renters facing eviction. And it wouldn't matter anyway because, simply put, the funds inside the rental assistance, they're only eligible to tenants who meet certain criteria. However, the eviction moratorium in many cases was applied to all landlords. That means that there was still an unlawful taking of property from those landlords whose tenants didn't qualify and they still were unable to evict. So yeah, that's part of the reason why I've always believed that this was unlawful and illegal. But when it comes down to it, the CDC just did not have the authority to impose such a thing. And it had nothing to do with actual transmission of the virus. They admitted to that. They admitted that it had more to do with the financial implications of tenants being unable to pay their rent because they locked the country down. Okay, they created the problem by locking the country down, and a lot of people lost their jobs. And then they are like, oh, well, to fix this problem, we're going to prevent these people from being evicted. Well, you created this problem, and now, we're all sitting here and we have to dwell in it. So there's going to be a lot of evictions going on throughout the country, and I'm going to keep working, and I'm going to bring you stories about some of these other evictions and, what's going on throughout the country as this whole thing starts to clear up. Plus, of course, there's still the state and local eviction moratoriums that are in place, and there's all sorts of other lawsuits going on from landlords in multiple states and multiple jurisdictions trying to get rid of those local and state moratoriums as well. With the Delta variant of the COVID surging in many parts of the country, the CDC issued a more limited eviction moratorium through October 3rd. This latest decision from the court comes just about 3 weeks after the CDC issued that protection. Without this order, evictions in these higher transmission areas would likely exacerbate the increase in cases, the CDC order said, adding, the COVID-19 vaccination effort has a slower rate of penetration among the populations most likely to experience eviction. The CDC moratorium has protected many from eviction. More than 7 million people are still behind on rent in the wake of the pandemic-related shutdowns. And they're going to continue to be behind on rent no matter when the eviction moratorium ends. Now, we just need to peel that Band-Aid off. We're going to experience a bit of pain at first, right? And things are going to get back to normal. And in the normal days, people are just constantly, they're moving from property to property. Okay, people are getting evicted all the time. Nothing has really changed. Okay, the people who were in financial distress before the pandemic or were still in financial distress during the pandemic, and they will probably still be in financial distress after the pandemic is over. So having an eviction moratorium in place didn't really help them at all. The only thing it really did was allow them to accumulate a lot of debt with a landlord and put a landlord in a bad position where they were stuck paying all these bills for these bad tenants and they couldn't get them out of their properties. So it's a pretty long article. There's a lot of extra stuff in here that really doesn't matter, but the main point is that we finally have a big victory, and the CDC's eviction moratorium has been knocked out cold. Okay, so now we just got to get rid of these other smaller local and state eviction moratoriums and get landlords the money that they are owed, because we are still struggling through all of this.